I wanted to go over the food plot cost per acre. A lot of people are looking at like, really how much does it cost? Maybe some of you want your spouse to leave the room and not listen to this, but it can be expensive. We try to limit what we're spending because I'm not using a fancy, expensive tractor, no-till drills. I do have nice side-by-sides, ATV, but I get to do everything with just my ATV. Again, it's a 2007 Yamaha Grizzly. I'm getting some work done on it right now. But I use the ATV side-by-side. Our Packer Max called the Packer. That to me is an essential tool for what we do. I have a couple different sprayers, one for the side-by-side, one for the ATV, and then I have an Earthway Model 2750 hand spreader. So this is outside of all those costs. Now some people I've had clients that have had a $70,000, $80,000 drill and tractor setup for planting 5 acres of food plots. They had money, so they buy the tractor. I've seen multiple clients like that, but they didn't need those. And in fact, both of them got rid of them after a couple of years because you really don't need them. You get a bug to bite that, that it really get bitten by that bug to actually go out and purchase a tractor. And I had a Kubota. Boy, on that tractor, I think I put right around 500 hours, maybe a little over 500 hours on it. So I enjoyed my tractor while I had it. I mostly used it for removing trees, creating food plots, and removing snow. But bottom line is, just looking at seed, fertilizer, lime, chemical, plot start, plot boost, what are we looking at per acre? Again, we're trying to minimize our cost per acre, and I'll talk about that along the way here. But I'm looking at your seed, $60 to $150. If you look at John Comp's, we use a lot of brassica, and the Sweet Feast brassica blend, if that's all I'm putting in an acre, we're talking about $50, $55 we're shipping per acre for a high quality brassica blend per acre. And that seed will give you the most volume. So if it's something that's a fit for you, it'll give you an incredible amount of volume, planted in the right situation, of course. If it's planted up north and you have a half acre food plot, low deer numbers, but there's no other quality food, you might not get that half acre to see September with any kind of growth in it because the deer will just pound it down. Just 3 or 4 deer can destroy that half acre. So that wouldn't be a good fit. But I'm talking about if it's a good fit, it'll produce a lot of tonnage for you in a short amount of time, specifically targeted towards the deer season. And there's other areas where you have low deer numbers, probably too low, high ag percentage, and they won't eat the brassica. That's probably 10-15% of the country. So there are areas where you wouldn't plant brassica, of course, let alone a lot of other things, but that's going to be on the low end for cheap. Even rye at $200 or at 200 pounds per acre to 300 pounds per acre, you're looking at 100 pounds right around $25 per acre, something like that. I've seen as low as $10 in the past, but it's a lot more expensive now, like most seeds and most things. But you're looking at, you plant rye and it's 300 pounds per acre. You could be looking at, even if you went on the high side, $30 per acre, you're looking at $90 worth of seed. When you start mixing buckwheat during the summertime, when you start putting in peas in a late season blend, when you add soybeans, things like that, then that cost is going to go up. And that's why I have that range, 60 to 150. A lot of my acres, half my acres are brassica, so I'm looking at a very low cost per acre, and that's something to figure in. Fertilizer, about $100. I'm looking at 4 bags of whatever. I've seen them as low as $18, $17, and sometimes $25 to $30. But looking at an average, and that cost might go up this year too, but going by soil test recommendation, that's about where we're at. Lime, $200 per acre. And I'm looking at, let's say you need 2 tons per acre, about 100 pounds or $100 per acre, $100 a ton. Depends on if you're buying powdered lime or pelletized lime. Pelletized lime can be 2.5 times to 3 times more expensive. So I always use powdered lime, where I just spread by myself across the soil. I've spread probably 35 tons like that, or 50 tons, whatever the amount's been. It's been a huge amount by hand. I've put out 65, 70 tons, 60 tons up in the UP in Michigan. And not all of that was by opening up the bag and walking with it. But that's a cost right there you have to consider going by the soil test. Chemicals, about $60 to $90. We're looking at, if you're just using Roundup and you're spraying twice during the season, maybe you're putting buckwheat in between like we do, then I'm gonna look at $60 for 2,4-D and Roundup, and that's with today's pricing at $125 for a 2.5 gallon jug. Because one 2.5 gallon jug covers and kills 5 acres. Think about that, 5 acres. So so $125 kills 5 acres. I know a lot of people that have 2 acres or less. So really, yeah, Roundup went up, but not that much in comparison to everything else out there as far as a per cost per acre, even at this point. And obviously, before it went up, when it was $31 for a 2.5 gallon jug, this number goes way down. It's just a quarter of what it is. Where 2,4-D is pretty cheap, so I figured $10 an acre for that. And but really, it falls within that range right there. And then Plot Start, Plot Boost. We'll say about that is I've used Plot Boost. It helps take the nutrients, put them into the plant, get the most of the soil, but you still experience a diminishing return if you don't add fertilizer within that 2 to 3 year window. It's a good start for us. We had so much to do here in Minnesota. And then Plot Start allows the plants to uptake the nutrients without applying lime. So lime is one way, changing the pH for those plants to be able to uptake the nutrients. Using Plot Start and the ingredients they put in there is another. So we figured there's $75. You can go right to deergrow.com. You can look at those prices per acre, and that's what we use on ours. Overall, the fertilizer, I've skimped on that. I really apply my fertilizer heavily to my brassica portion. I use 75 pounds of urea per acre when the plants are 3 to 4 weeks. When it's dry out and you have rain in the forecast, that's when I apply that by hand, let it soak in, and that gives a great jump start to the brassica crop. And that's really, I focus on that. If I am going to focus on traditional fertilizer recommendation, I'm going to apply it largely to my brassica portion, where the rye, the peas, the beans, I'm not as concerned with their growth as much as I am the brassica side, because again, that gives me the best volume, and the other portions can grow with more minimum fertilizer, I find. Anyways, especially when it comes to nitrogen, which is very expensive. The lime, I'm using Plot Start in lieu of lime. That's something I have to repeat and use every single year, but I find it a lot easier and enjoyable to just go out and spray Plot Start on my fields at planting time, as opposed to bringing lime in, getting lime trucks that I can't get into most locations or a lot of locations, or spreading bags of lime. I just almost have nightmares after 65 tons of bagged lime in the past and handling those 50-pound bags. I'd rather not have to. I'd rather not do that if I don't have to. And so for me, a lot of times, and most of you, you're going to fall into that $300 to $400 per acre. Again, this is outside of all your equipment, and that's why $300 to $400 an acre, you start talking about, we plant 2.25 acres in Wisconsin. That's all we need for that property. So we're looking at $700, $800, $900 in our food plot costs. That's a lot of money, especially when you add it to a cheap ATV, a Packer Max, a sprayer on that ATV, the Earthway model 2750. That's that base cost. You could get away with a handheld broadcaster and a backpack sprayer if you wanted to, with a lot of the plantings that we talk about. It's just a lot more work, a lot more walking, whatever it might be, but a lot more labor, bottom line. So when it comes to cost per acre, and this is why, we use Brandon from First Choice Food Plots. He does get my corn in for me every year. And he'll go to someone and they'll say, what's the cost per acre for you to plant? Well, when you start adding things up, just seed and fertilizer, lime, his hard expenses, you're still going to be in that $300 to $400, let alone if he's planting corn, beans, other crops that cost a little bit more money per acre and have to be maintained more. For example, on our corn, we're adding nitrogen. He's putting in liquid nitrogen to begin with. We're adding nitrogen later too. So we're adding a lot of nitrogen, about 175 pounds per acre of nitrogen in our corn. So when someone like Brandon comes out and you're getting a price per acre, it probably wouldn't shock you after seeing this, what his prices would be, because it's not going to just be, he's not going to come out and plant your acre for $500 an acre typically. That's not even hardly include his transportation costs and hard costs. So it's quite costly when you have someone else do that. I've always been a do-it-yourselfer, so the majority of my acres I plant every year, up to 18 acres, 22 acres one year, are planted by hand or with smaller minimal equipment, without tractors, without no-till drills, and some of those expenses, because it was hard enough to plant food plots correctly. And I'd urge you to do that. Some people go out and buy a tractor, drill, and then they don't do it right with fertilizer, lime, pH levels, the right seeds, the right seed blends at the right time. They spend tens of thousands of dollars doing it wrong. I'd rather see you spend thousands of dollars doing it right. And I hope this helps you and guides you to success, and making sure you spend the money in the right ways, which would be on this side right here: seed, fertilizer, lime, chemicals, Plot Start, Plot Boost. Make sure you're doing those correctly and the right amounts, the right seed choices, the right chemical applications, planting process. I'd rather see you put more time and money into this side than this side. And regardless of whether we use minimal equipment or heavy, we still have the same results if you're following these and the needs for your food plots this year. And boy, let's face it, when it gets in time into hunting season and that time of year rolls around, you and your deer herd are going to be a lot happier if you do it right and spend wisely for this season, and especially this season with all these costs going up and beyond. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes so that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.